Hi, I'm Cindy Burflat with the Lakes Area League of Women Voters with another session of Snack-Sized Civics. Just a little bit about the League of Women Voters, and our purpose is we are a nonpartisan but policy-driven organization. And our main goal is to inform and educate in order to promote active participation in government at all levels. We work to increase understanding of and influence public policy issues. With me today is David Stowman. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Cindy.
We're going to talk, Dave's going to share a little bit about our right to assembly. So, Dave, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself. And as you visit about right to assembly, we want to hear why is it important? What does it mean? And what is the impact if we lose something like that?
All right. Well, thank you, Cindy. It's good to be here with you this morning. And a shout out also to the League of Women Voters. They do a community service, and we should thank them for that. We appreciate it. Well, I'm now retired, but I've been a practicing attorney in Detroit Lakes for over 50 years. And during my career, I served as the president of the Minnesota State Bar Association, and I've also as the chair of the State Board of Public Defense. And we've handled a number of cases, including we represented two of the next of kin in the George Floyd wrongful death claim. Okay. And so we've had a number of interesting cases over the years. Interesting. So, should we go on with our topic?
Let's go on with the topic, right to assembly.
All right, right to assembly. And I'm going to cover it in 3 steps.
Okay.
First of all, I'm going to read the applicable portions of the First Amendment that deal with right of assembly. Then I'm going to tell a little story about how I came to the understanding of the importance of the right to assembly. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about how fragile the right of assembly really is.
Perfect.
So I'm going to start out with reading a little bit about the applicable portions of the First Amendment, and it reads, Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. Now, my understanding of the First Amendment came through a bit of an arduous process. I came to my understanding with a conversation that I had with myself, and it was on Christmas Day, 1967. Now, you might, how do you remember Christmas of '67? Well, at the time, I was in the Marine Corps, serving in the Republic of Vietnam.
Oh, yeah.
And I was sitting on a sandbag, cleaning my rifle, and at the time, I knew what was happening back in the States, and there were people that were assembling, they were protesting the war, and they were burning the American flag. And to me, at that time, that conduct was just disgusting. My visceral reaction was to just close them down. But I had to deal with the realities, and I understand that those that went before me had sacrificed so that they could have the freedom to assemble, and yes, even to burn the American flag. Now, Vietnam had very little to do with the protecting of the Bill of Rights, but I convinced myself that as I was serving with others, that we were doing it so that others could assemble, protest, and even destroy the American flag. But it was a later event that took place that made me understand just how fragile the right of assembly really is. And let me refer to an event that happened on May 4 of 1970. And at that event, students had assembled on the campus of Kent State University in Ohio. They were protesting the Vietnam War, the draft, and the presence of the National Guard on campus. Yes, the National Guard had been called out, and it was the most insane thing that could have been done. Our military is not trained in crowd control. Our military is trained to close with and kill the enemy. So when the military is facing protesting students, the students become the perceived enemy. Now, on the campus, tensions had escalated over 4 days of protest. And in a period of 13 seconds, there were 67 rounds that were fired at unarmed students. 4 of the students were killed, and 9 of the students were injured. And of one of those injured students, they were paralyzed and never walked again. Now, to me, that was a predictable scenario. Calling out the military escalates tensions. And and whenever that happens, there's unintended consequences, which happened at Kent State. And so it's not the threat of invading forces, it's the authoritarian tendencies of those in power to crush dissent on any issue. That, in my opinion, is the danger of losing the freedom of assembly. Government leaders have to be those that are adults in the room. Government leaders must avoid an authoritarian reaction to protesters assembling. The existence of our democracy depends upon it.
Right.
So just let me summarize if I can. The freedom of assembly is enshrined in the First Amendment. Many have sacrificed to preserve that freedom, but it's at risk, not from some invading force, but from authoritarian governmental leaders who suppress dissent with military force. We citizens have to be constantly vigilant. If freedom of assembly is defined by what is deemed reasonable or permissible by governmental authorities, then we no longer have freedom of assembly. Mm-hmm. It is our freedoms that define us as Americans.
And as a democracy.
As a democracy,
Perfect.
Correct.
Thank you, Dave. You did that so well. I appreciate that. Always
Thank you.
appreciate learning a little bit more in depth of everything else. So thank you for joining us today, and a shout out thank you to West Central Initiative and the VFW for their sponsorship of these programs.